Welcome to Pique Your Interest, your go-to podcast for all things mortgage and real estate. Hosted by Tanner Greenwald and Tim Malaskis. We bring you expert insights to help you buy, sell, and invest with confidence. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Pique Your Interest podcast, the podcast where we seek to demystify all things real estate and mortgage related. I am one of your hosts, Tim Malaskis. I'm a loan officer here at the First Home Millersville branch.
I am Tanner Greenwald, part of the Greenwald team here at our First Home Millersville branch as well.
And today we are going to talk to you about, we're going to tell you our origin story, how we got into this business and why we're still doing it. We've had a lot of people asking, like, how do you get into this business? How did you personally get into this business? And we thought it would be a really cool idea to just make an entire episode out of it. So without further ado, I'll let Tanner tell you how she got here.
Oh, so exciting, so exciting. So funny story. I did not plan for this to be part of my life at all, really. I went to school for psychology. That was going to be my bread and butter until I found out that psychology, in order to kind of get to the job that I wanted to, you had to go through more schooling. And for me, schooling was just done. I was over it. I was done going to school, and I just wanted to graduate with a degree, some type of degree. So I was like, I mean, and if you think about it, psychology can be used in everyday life, which I've learned at this job. I've used psychology almost every day. Yeah. But yeah, so I went to school for psychology. I do have my bachelor's in it. I did not go to further schooling for it. So once I graduated, I reached out to my mom because she was in the mortgage industry. And I felt comfortable doing that because, side note, I've known Tim. I've known Tim since I was very young. I don't even know, what, like 8 or 9 years old? 8
or 9 years old, yeah.
Yeah, so Tim worked with my mom previously at another mortgage company, which I'm sure he'll tell you about. But, you know, I was very comfortable with the people that she worked with, and just kind of, I was familiar with her line of work. So I said, you know, I'm graduating college. I'm looking for any type of admin job that you guys have. I just wanted something to kind of put on my resume to say, hey, I have a job, I have some type of job. So I ended up working here at First Home Mortgage part-time while I went to, I worked here 2 days a week, and I drove to Salisbury the other 3 for 2 classes. So I was dedicated to that degree, very dedicated to the degree. Yeah, but I ended up working here part-time to start off with, and I was just doing file help and stuff like that. Once I became full-time, I started helping people with like marketing stuff, and I found that was something that I had a lot of interest in. I was like, oh, I like to do marketing. This is fun. It's like it brings out my creative side kind of thing. But then in 2017, I sat down with my mom and we had a conversation, and she said, why don't you think about getting licensed? You know, we can start a team, we can go out and we can be this team. And then from there, you know, you can take my book of business and, you know, you can be successful as well. Develop your own book of business while, you know, you're trying to learn the business. So that's pretty much what I did. So I graduated from college with 1 degree. I ended up working here at First Home Mortgage for a couple years, part-time into full-time, kind of learning the ins and outs of it. But at the end of the day, I still have that psychology yearning. You know, I find it very interesting. And when I have clients who are like, you know what, like I feel like I'm confused, or I feel like I don't know the process very well. I'm like, oh, this is my time to shine, baby. You know, like, let me tell you. So yes, I do think that I use my knowledge of school into the everyday job here at First Home Mortgage, but this was not kind of what I thought I was going to be doing. So looking back, I almost laugh. I'm like, holy crap, you know, but I'm glad to be here. I'm still here. I'm working with people that I knew
for a long time,
like 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah. No, I think it's cool because, you know, even in just this podcast, which is like a very small part of what we do, you know, on a daily and weekly basis, we've focused on the psychology of the home buyer and just being in the market and what that looks like and what that feels like, and, you know, what just being a part of being a home buyer feels like overall. Yeah. That's not really something that a lot of people talk about. And no. I think we definitely, you know, if you were somebody else, we wouldn't be having conversations like that because we wouldn't have that kind of background.
Yeah. So, I've been told multiple times I'm too emotional for this business, which maybe I am. I don't know. But I also have clients who have told me that they appreciate me going the extra mile while they're bawling their eyes out on the phone about, their just situation or whatever. I like being able to feel like I have a connection with a client because I am a little bit soft myself. Like, do I have hard spots? Yes, I do. But there's a reason I like psychology. So, yeah. What about you? How did you? I've known you for a long time, but I don't know how you got in this industry. So, take it away.
Okay, so when I was 22, freshly out of college, I was working as a door-to-door salesman. I went door-to-door selling coupons, coupon books to people for like local businesses, like little like tire care shops or restaurants, but it was all very hyper local within the community. And the goal was to talk to 100 people every day. So I would start at like 10 a.m., start knocking on people's doors, but a lot of people aren't around. This is way before COVID. I mean, this is 2002, 2003, something like that. And so people weren't working from home. So during the day, it was really slow. You'd only get people that were either retired or, stay-at-home folks. And so, it was a fun job. I really enjoyed it. I really liked going around and knocking on doors because I am not an extrovert by nature. And I enjoy trying to be an extrovert sometimes because I feel like it's a good challenge. So I really liked this door-to-door job. It was my first experience with sales. But when I went away to college, going back a couple of years before that, when I went away to college, I didn't know a single person at the college that I went to when I got there. And so I saw that as like a time that I could really get out of my comfort zone and like learn a lot more about myself and figure out how I could become, somebody different than what I was in, elementary, middle, and high school.
Right.
So college helped me get out of my shell a little bit, helped me learn how to talk to people. This door-to-door job just blew that wide open. I mean, you never knew who was going to be behind that door. I have some awesome stories, some really great stories that I could tell, and I'm not going to, but I had a lot of fun. It was probably the most fun job that I've ever had because it wasn't, this job is serious. This just is, you're dealing with people's finances, their homes, their emotions. There's a lot that goes into this, and, selling a $20 coupon book door to door just doesn't rival that. But it made me step out of my comfort zone. It made me learn how to interact with people. It made me figure out how to deal with different types of personalities. And, the salesy part of it is, looking for things that help you realize like you're going to make a sale or you're not going to make a sale and you move on to the next. So I did that for almost a year. But in the winter time, it got cold and we're still going around door to door. So the idea was like from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. you'd be knocking on doors. And the goal was to talk to 100 people and try to sell 20 every day of whatever it was. But the winter time is really hard. I mean, it gets cold, it gets dark early, people don't want to open their doors. And so after just months of just being cold and not selling anything and having a hard time making money, I was on the phone with my parents one night and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know that I can't keep doing this because I'm enjoying it, but I'm not making enough money for to pay my rent and to pay my car bill and, student loans and things like that. And so my mom, who was also in this mortgage business, and spoiler alert, this is a very nepotistic business. My mom was like, well, the mortgage industry is really booming right now. It's very busy. Interest rates are falling. There are a lot of people in my office that need assistance. There's even an appraiser that needs an assistant. So I don't know if you want to do any of these things, but it's salesy, kind of like what you're doing now, and you can make money if that's what you want to do. And I said, I don't really understand most of the words that you just said. I don't know what a mortgage is or a loan officer or an appraiser. Right. I had no idea what those are. I was like a 22-year-old kid. She's like, well, I think, why don't you, I'll give you the numbers of some people. Why don't you reach out to them and see if they'd be interested in having an assistant? And funny enough, Michelle was one of the names that she gave me, but I didn't get around to getting Michelle because, I found somebody else first. So I made a phone call the next day and I said, hey, my mom's Terry, and she said, you might be looking for a loan officer assistant. I think that's kind of what I'm looking to do. And, it ended up being the guy that's our branch manager right now, Mike Taylor. And so Mike was like, yeah, come on in, we'll do an interview and we'll see what happens. And by the time I left the interview, he's like, I think this would be a really good fit for you. You should come work for me. So I did. It didn't take very long at all to figure out that this is what I wanted to do. Like I felt very comfortable doing it. It's kind of weird working with my mom for like 6 years.
Tell me about it.
But it's a lot less time than you have. But yeah, I mean, I didn't expect to do this growing up.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I was going to be like an archaeologist or a marine biologist or like something else that like kids normally dream about. I don't know that anybody grows up and says, I want to be a loan officer. I want to be a loan officer assistant. I want to be an appraiser. I don't think anybody grows up with those aspirations. Except my kids. They think this office is pretty cool. So maybe my kids will do this one day.
Your kids love this office. Like, love.
They do. I think they like this podcast room. So I got into it because I wanted to do something salesy. I wanted to make a good living. I wanted to make a difference. And I was tired of doing that outside, knocking on doors.
Right.
Still most fun job I've ever had by far. But it certainly wasn't the right fit for me long term. And this definitely has been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, to talk about why we've also stayed in the business is important as well, because this is an industry, especially nowadays, where it's hard. It's cutthroat for a number of reasons. It's hard for a number of reasons. It's almost like every day you're coming in and you're having to fill your schedule with things that are going to be helpful to you as, whatever title you are in the mortgage industry. And that itself can be hard, and it could be draining, and it definitely takes a toll on your mental. But I think for me, one of two reasons that I continue to do this and stay, and you do want to rip your hair out some days. So let me just.
I already did.
Let me reiterate. I feel like. When you get to the closing table and you've worked with people for as long as you've worked with them, and you see just kind of the relief come over their face or their emotion, like I've had people crying at the settlement table. I've had people make me cry because they're so thankful. I've had people who have just had a really rocky loan situation just because it doesn't matter where they would have went. It would have been a rocky loan situation. They finally get themselves to the settlement table. You can see it in their face. The whitewashedness of, is this going to happen for me, turns into a smile. And it's different. It's a different feeling when you go and you're like, okay, wow, this is definitely worth something. It's worth the calls. It's worth the back and forth, the emails. It's, because the buck doesn't just stop with us. I mean, it goes all over the place. We are calling and contacting multiple different types of people a day. So I think just being able to get to the settlement table and seeing people's reaction and how they truly feel about being able to buy a home. Because, we're not just buying a piece of candy at the grocery store. You're buying a home. So that's important. But also, this job will pay you lucratively if you work hard to get to the point of building your book of business. So for me, I started to see that, my hard work's paying off, and I like that. That's what I kind of trained my brain in growing up in school. I'm like, you work really hard, you get a good job, you're going to be successful. And that's kind of what what has happened to me. So that's why I'm sticking with it. Why are you sticking with this?
Yeah, same reasons, right? Like I feel like there are a lot of people out there that do work hard, and there's only so much that you can do. Like you're, whether it's like organizationally or positions or whatever it is, there's a ceiling that you have.
Right.
One of the things that I really like about this, I'm a child of the 80s, so every like improbable movie plot that exists, you can achieve the impossible kind of thing, was ingrained in my brain from an early age, and I feel like. We are at a job where we're 100% commission. Like there isn't a guaranteed paycheck at any time ever. And so it is, to me, it's exciting. It's also nerve wracking most of the time, but it's very exciting that you have an opportunity. If I showed up to work, I'm not the kind of person that could show up to work, go to work from 9 to 5, be told, hey, this is how much you're going to be paid for showing up from 9 to 5, and you get 14 days off during the year or whatever. I could not like that. I totally get why people do, because there's a security in that, and there's safety in knowing that I'm going to make this much money. This is how I budget, and I'm going to get these days off, and I know that when I get these days off, I'm not going to work.
Yeah.
We don't have that in this industry, and I think that that's a big turnoff to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. It happens to be one of the things that I like the most. It sounds silly, but I like working. I like being available. I like being able to help people when it's convenient for them. And it sounds weird as hell to say out loud, but it really is like, It really is true. I have tons of friends that work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. They're off all weekend. They don't think about work. They don't talk about work when they're not working. For us, it's more of a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And I think from an early age, in my early 20s when I started in this industry, I think I realized by looking at some of the people that were really successful, it is a lifestyle. It's not just, it's not just a job. It's not just something you dabble in. It's not a hobby. Yeah. It's a full-on career. And it's even, I'd say it's beyond that. It's a lifestyle that we have to lead. And so I like the idea that I can kind of make my own schedule. I can kind of do the things that I want to do. I can meet with the people I want to meet with. I can help the people that I want to help. And to me, that's energizing. Like, I've never woken up a single time in the 21 years that I've been doing this and thought, oh, God, I got to go to work today. I never think that.
Yeah. He really doesn't.
It's weird. I know, like, everyone I know has days where they just don't want to work. And I never have those days where I'm like, God, I just don't want to do it today.
Yeah.
There are days I get in here and I start working and I'm like, oh, God, this is stupid. Why am I dealing with this problem today? Those times I kind of want to not do this, but the overwhelming majority of the time, I like what I do. I like the people I work with. I like the people that I help. And the idea that we can help people do something as great as buy a house, start building wealth, achieve the American dream. I think not everybody gets to make a difference that way. Yeah. And so it's nice when you're able to do that. I think it makes the daily grind that you go through easier to deal with. And you can see that there's like a bigger picture to it, right? And I feel like that makes our lives a little bit easier, makes this job a little bit easier too.
Yeah. I feel like we're going to talk about on an episode what it looks like to be a loan officer, meaning like the licensing process, the studying to get your license, what happens after you pass, what happens when you get your first client, like just things like that, where what to expect if this is the industry because we have people come in our door sometimes and it's like, I'm looking to be a loan officer. What does that look like? How much do I get paid? When do I start? And it's like, that's not how it is at all. There's so much that goes into it. And almost looking back, and if somebody asked me, would you do it again if you knew, back then what I know now as being part of this industry? And I think I would. Like, it's just, I like the pace of it. Like you said, it's something where you create your own schedule, which makes you feel more like an adult, in my opinion. It's like, I'm not strictly having to be at this place at this specific time because this is what, the boss man said or boss woman or whoever. It's like we're able to carry ourselves in more of an adult way, which is something that I like as well, because I don't like micromanagers. I do not like that.
No, we were definitely treated as adults. Yeah. If we can come and go as we please, that's certainly one of the perks of the position that we have. But the harder you work, the more successful you are. So if you're not here at the office and you're not out doing something that's productive toward helping people buy houses or meeting with potential referral partners or, whatever the next task might be. If you're not doing any of those things and you're not here, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah.
And you would be better off having a job that has set hours and set pay because, at least that seems to be a little more structured and maybe that's kind of what you need.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. But I think that would be might be a good video topic coming up.
Just kind of we should do that next.
Yeah. So maybe look out for that next. But Tim and I just wanted to share, how we ended up getting into the business ourselves, because this is not just kind of a business people dive into. I don't think a lot of people know the ins and outs of it. No. So I think it's interesting too. I didn't know how you got into it, so that was interesting to learn on my end. So.
Yeah. No, I'm grateful that I'm in the position that I'm in. I think that either one of us could have gone another direction. We could have easily done something else with our lives, and we wouldn't be here today. So I think it's cool to figure out. Like, again, people have asked, and obviously Tanner didn't know, but there are things that lead you to what it is that you ultimately end up doing, and figuring out what that that origin story is pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
All right.
Anyways, yeah, thanks for tuning in. We just wanted to kind of explain how we got into the industry, because I think that's something that's important. Not a lot of people get into this industry or think to get into the industry. So I think our stories are kind of interesting.
Yeah, nobody wants to grow up being a loan officer, but eventually at some point you figure out that maybe that's something that you want to do.
Yeah. So either way, tune into next episode because we will go into the ins and outs of what that looks like being a loan officer. And I think that will be a very interesting video, but that's just my opinion. So
super enthralling. Can't wait.
Yeah. Anyway, have a great day and tune in next week. Bye.
All right, bye.